should be good. Hello again. Um, Chances are, if you're watching this, you have seen the like Piranha Lake thingy or whatever, and seen that I was going to also do this video trying to give general, I guess, tips and like things to explain how I do chickens and just like, I guess, get tips or whatever to do these better, to do both the chickens and the fish better from the other video. I sat down and decided that I think I'm just going to go over the general things that I could say about birding rubber at the end of this video. I'll probably go over and do the minigame and just kind of explain what I'm thinking about while I'm doing it, but I'll probably only do it the one time because, like I said, it's very heavily dependent on what's going on. It's very reactionary. Sorry. And I'm doing this right after the fish recording, so I didn't go get water or anything. Which is probably a bad thing considering how much I'm going to be talking, but whatever. So, I guess, getting started here, I'm going to kind of move my notes a little bit here, so I can see them. There we go. Alright, let's get in here to these chickens. So starting out, one of the things that I always do is, and this is just personal preference, after I click the start and restart level to skip the cutscene with Bentley, I always come over here. I always come to the left side. But this is just preference, and why I'm doing this is at the very beginning of the level, the chickens are still spawning. So as you can see there, I got 11. I ran into the rooster on purpose, whatever. But you can see that I had 11 chickens in the first like 13 seconds. This works on either side or whatever. You just want to go to one side and then kill the chickens as quickly as possible, and it will constantly spawn chickens on this side because the other side is too heavily like packed with chickens. Unless their pathing takes them there, there can't be more than X chickens on one side. I want to say X being like 4 or 5 there. I can only ever spawn that many on one side. And then, oh boy, good old chicken, or good old roosters. That's another thing. The rooster spawns for this minigame, they are preset to an extent. Like there are general areas. Like I'm standing in this general area. One rooster is almost always going to go spawn over in that far right corner, unless I'm like running in this direction, in which case generally a rooster will just spawn here or here, and then the second will spawn here, here, or here. And then you can generally flip all of these spawns from that. Like if you're in this corner, one will spawn here or here, and then the other will spawn here or here. And it attempts to kind of trap you and scare the player or whatever. In that case, you just kind of cut across in the middle. The roosters will always take the fastest pathway to you, and that even includes if they have to like run into this, they will just run into this and slide along it until you get to an angle or whatever. That's what their whole pathing is just the fastest to you. The chickens will generally not move unless you get within a certain range of them. So as you can see those chickens over there, they're not going to move until I get close enough to them, and then they will just move in a sporadic direction. Which is another part of the randomness to this, is the sporadicness of the chicken AI. But generally you can, while you can't like predict this and manipulate their AI the most, it's just something that just kind of happens. You can plan your movement around the roosters. So like if you're constantly paying attention, I see that I can't cut across there, but I could have cut back across there. So I could have hit those 2 chickens on the left, or I could have swung, hit those 2, and then cut immediately back across, because both of those roosters won't have enough time to cut back on the right side of that bucket above the try again sign. They can only go around, and that will also not only save me and allow me to cut back across, because I just killed 2 chickens on this side. So after having just came from the right side, I know the chickens will be spawning over there, or they at least should be spawning over there. That's generally what I'm trying to do. There is a general path you can follow. The general path is outlined generally like this. this is the like normal method or whatever you could say for like how you be used to, I guess. Like this is what everyone, like this is what you tell beginners or whatever, is to try to follow this path as best as possible. The reason why is it generally will keep the roosters from spawning away from you. Like that's just kind of dependent on like when they blow up. Like if they blow up in this portion, you'll be over here. And if you're ever in this like central neutral position, unless you are running directly to like this or directly to this, generally the roosters are going to spawn on either of these two over here. One rooster will spawn over there, and then the second rooster will spawn over here. Generally, for the most part, unless you are trapped in one of these corners, like unless I'm trapped in this corner or in that other corner, you will never have two roosters spawn on the same side. From what I've seen, just going through it in runs and going through it the few times that I've practiced this, that is generally the case. I've never seen it happen otherwise. I've seen some times where like I said, I've been running on like this side, and there'll be a rooster that spawns over there, and then a rooster that spawns here. But generally, you can just cut across like this, and then be aggressive towards the chickens. Another thing to point out is, again, sorry for the coughing. The first time you do this level, after you do the restart level, the roosters will always spawn upon the killing of the 8th chicken. So as soon as you hit the 8th chicken on the top right, like with the counter, when it goes 8 out of 50, immediately the roosters will spawn. And if you die, then it increases by 2 for each subsequent death. So if you die and you don't reload or anything like that, like let's say like you immediately get 8, right, and then you die, and you're just like, what, whatever, I'll just, it's 10 seconds, I'll just take the time loss. Now, on your second time through, just kind of run around hitting chickens. Oh, that's weird. They shouldn't have spawned on 8, but I guess maybe it was because I timed out. I like timed out in the fade out. Oh no. Huh. Okay. Maybe it's after a certain amount of deaths. I know I've seen it spawn at 10 before. But I guess, qualms of doing the commentary off the top of your head. But for here, there isn't really too much more to explain. I'm just gonna kind of go through this once or twice, explaining what I'm doing as I'm doing it, and all of that nonsense. And I guess one more thing to go over is while you're like running around this minigame, you can move the camera, and it can be helpful and whatnot, depending on like what you want to do. If you like having a full span, you can move the camera around to give yourself a better idea. The only problem with that is you can't really see. Also, huh. That's weird. Holy shit. No fucking way. Die again, roosters. Huh. Okay. So I guess casually figured out how the rooster spawns work. So apparently the roosters can only spawn when that's weird. I know I've seen them spawn outside, but I guess realistically, I've always been able to see both roosters spawn. Let's see if I can get them to die again, and then kind of point just towards those two. Yeah, the roosters can only spawn if the little panels are on screen. Huh, I never knew that. That is not, however, true with the chickens. The chickens will generally spawn, like I said, whether there's 5 or whether there's multiples on one side or not, they'll always spawn on the side with the least amount of chickens. The only time that isn't the case is if chickens are already running to that side once the RNG is triggered that it wants to spawn those chickens on that side. That's the only time it can ever spawn more on one side than on the other. But I never knew that the roosters spawned only on ones that you've seen. So then they should die. Well, I guess I'll have to do this. So let's see if I can make this work. I chose the wrong side over here. I should have went to the right to start out here, but alright, so we've seen that those two only spawned, they spawned there. Now that they're dead, I kind of want to keep them spawn. Okay, yeah, see, that's kind of hard. But I imagine if you got really good at that, like if you got really, like, you could just flick it, because the rooster spawn is on a timer. At least I believe, from what I've witnessed. They always spawn, after they die, they spawn 5 seconds. So they die, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you can kind of like force them over there. So you can still run towards the chickens, and then on the 5-second mark, just kind of look over. Well, okay. Or not. Maybe that was just an outlier. Alright, 1. Nope. Huh. So I guess I just got really just like weird, like super convenient spawns, unless their spawns get more sporadic. Yeah, huh. Maybe that's just where I'm standing at. Like if these roosters will die. Please die. Thank you. But then it always spawned them, huh? So maybe it was just that. Maybe it's just this weird, like that random spot. Yeah, should I spawn both? Huh? And then over here. And they die, so I make it so they can only see these 4. They spawn on the outside too. I make it so I can only see these 4. Huh. So it seems like if there's 4 on screen, it will always spawn them on the 2 furthest away from you. And then if there's 6 on screen, it'll always spawn them as far away from you as physically possible. So if all 5 of these are all of these are on screen, it will pick that one and that one way over there. So it picks one that's close if there's a bunch on screen, and then one that's super far away. So you have the most, whatever. Also, I don't know if you've seen it, but a chicken got proxied. The roosters can proxy the chickens. And it's kind of funny, but can be kind of obnoxious. But anyway, I don't actually know what to do with that information. Now that I know that the camera, like where the camera is pointed, is where like the roosters will spawn. I don't actually know what to do with that information. So I'm just gonna do this like I would normally. So I'm going to spawn in, and a lot of this is kind of sound dependent because you can hear when the roosters, like, not the roosters, but the chickens open the doors. So you can like know whether or not you need to go from the side that you started on. Also, that was stupid. I don't know how I hit that rooster. But anyway, kind of just start this off again. And I generally like to try to stay on one side until I hit those 8, and then see where those roosters spawn at. And always try to take the fastest pathway to the chickens as possible. And then, like, as soon as they die, if there was a couple of chickens behind those roosters, as soon as they die, I immediately run over to get them. Generally, you'd want to try to avoid having to put yourself in a situation where you need to jump like that. But it is acceptable. Generally, if you can, you don't want to try to jump over the roosters. You want to jump over an object. Like, you want to put yourself in between the object and, like, the roosters. You want to put the object in between you and them, and then jump over the object. Also, being hyper aggressive is totally acceptable, even without a charm. You just need to know Sly's cane length. However, that's okay. I'm gonna point that out right now. That is something that I always try to avoid. Aggression is always acceptable, but you never want to be along this wall when the roosters are dead. I wasn't paying too much attention because I was commentating. But you generally never want to be on this outside edge. It's something that I should probably point out before I guess I end the video. If the roosters are dead, you never want to be that. You always want to stay a cane's length away, so that way if the rooster does spawn, you'll never kill it. See, I got rid of those and then I immediately cut away. And that kind of served a double purpose because there was no more chickens there to begin with, but it also saved my life. That was weird. I've never seen two roosters spawn and then instantly blow up each other. Another thing to point out is just like a little optimization thing, I guess. I see a lot of people just constantly swing the cane the whole time. Unless I'm like actively running towards a whole bunch of chickens, I don't like to do that. Because there'll be times where you'll just randomly catch your cane on the rooster instead of, or not bad, you'll randomly catch your cane on a rooster and die. And there'll be times where the chicken will just have perfect timing and run past your cane. And that's obnoxious, because then you have to go back and re-get that chicken, and it's just a bad time. That's kind of bad, because I was kind of explaining a lot of things and I died. So I'm going to go through and do this one more time. I'm going to try to commentate it as little as possible, which is what I do in runs. So I try as hard as I can not to talk during the minigame, so I can spend as much of my focus and as much of my brain power on the minigame itself to make the correct decisions. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to imitate how I would do it in a run. Well, I guess one more thing that I can point out is if you notice that you're at 7 chickens, you can try to finagle the chicken's movement to make it so you hit the 8th to spawn the roosters at the same time as you hit like 9 and 10, so that way you can use up as less time as possible, having to avoid the roosters. Also, kiting the roosters so that they don't run into each other and die is the most optimal way to do it, because the longer that they are alive, the less you have to worry about them respawning and just randomly killing you. But at the same time, if they're dead, you can be a lot more aggressive because you don't have to worry. Like, see right there, I was able to be super aggressive and kill those chickens super quickly. So yeah. So this is another really bad chickens. I can't play these minigames very well when I'm commentating them. I'm really surprised that I played fish as well as I did. Alright, let's give it one more time. Now that I don't have to talk about that like optimal, I guess, chicken timing. So that was slightly better. I was trying to focus and try to implement the little camera trick, but that's gonna take some time to get used to, trying to do that. That'll probably be another area we want to use the claw, and then try to like use your thumb off of the control stick to jump, and then use the your index finger to swing your cane, so that way you can properly camera movement. And then you'll also probably need to like practice it up a bit more, so you can have the map layout memorized, and then really use your sound cues to know where chickens are. But I feel like that was a decent showing, given that I was trying to mess around with the camera. Generally, anywhere from 25 to 30 is your pretty good average chickens, where you might lose, 6 to 7 seconds, depending on where, not depend, but like depending on how well you got into the level, how well you did like the start button thingy and all that jazz. Another thing to a good successful like quick chickens is a very good like intro to it, and then a very good like ending to it. So your first like 20 chickens, you generally want to be very, very, very aggressive with them. So apparently that's a super jump spot, huh? You want to be very aggressive with them. And then same thing with like your last like 10 or so. But a lot of aggression, like where and when you want to be aggressive, is kind of just personally based. It's whenever you feel comfortable. But generally, it's always going to be better to try to push yourself and be as quick as possible. So now I guess I can go over and do, I don't know why I didn't just do that when I was in the view map screen. Go over here and do burning rubber once, because it's fairly quick. So what I want to point out here with burning rubber is there are going to be times where burning rubber is just going to fuck you. You're going to get bad computer spawns. They're going to land on either the complete opposite side of where you are, instead of on the side that you are on, because they can spawn anywhere in the arena, but they will spawn more often on the other side of you. So I guess the best way I can explain it is it's an even percentage to spawn anywhere on the map. However, wherever the van is, whichever like side, like whichever like fourth of the area that the van is in, creates like a negative percentage to it. So if it's 50% everywhere, we'll say, just to kind of explain it, the fourth that the van is in is only 25. To kind of make that better, and then those other ones increase, right? So that 15% that gets cut away from there gets spread out across the other ones. So I guess a better way to explain it is if it's 4 quadrants, if it's divided up into the 4 quadrants, each one has 25% chance to spawn, and then whichever general fourth that the Murray's van is in gets cut down to like 10, and then that 15% is spread across evenly in the other ones and jumps them all up to like 30, 30-ish or whatever. And the slugs, no matter how many slugs are in a section, and like those percentages, by the way, are completely arbitrary. I just brought them up for the sake of explaining. And the slugs, they don't have any negative factors. They just kind of happen. They also spawn intermittently. I do believe they are on a timer for when they get knocked into the lava. It's not on hit. It's when they get knocked out of the arena. And I think it might also be when they're knocked out of the arena that instead of it being on a timer to spawn a new one, I think the same 4 are always in the match, and then once you knock them out, they kind of crawl back to the closest entrance themselves. But I'm not too sure about that. I haven't sat here and tested that. I haven't knocked one out and stared at it, to see if that happened. It could just be intermittent spawns, like normal. You hit it, it falls into the lava and it despawns, and then another one gets queued up in the timer as soon as it despawns. That's more than likely the case. But yeah. So another thing that I can recommend here, just like how I kind of recommended at the very end of this, the chickens thing, is the claw grip, which is using your index finger from your right hand to press the square button, In this case, unlike chickens where it swings your cane, it's going to extend a little like hammer punch thing or whatever from the front of the van, and you can use this to extend the van's hitbox. So you can kind of finagle it to where you can use that, extend the hitbox, and then for like the second and a half it's out, flick the van to where you can turn, use that extra like little bit to hit the computer, and instantly spin around so you can start going towards another computer. It's very difficult, and is oftentimes, I mean, it's always worth it to at least try to go for it. But generally speaking, you'll just be using it to kind of snag a computer out from a slugs thing, you know, kind of like how a runner in a sprint will lean forward to edge out his competitor. That's essentially the same thing that you're doing. Also, this hammer thing can kill the slugs. This is just basic knowledge, it's stuff that's known, but it doesn't kill them instantly. It only knocks them a certain amount of distance, and when you hit the slug's hitbox isn't gone because it's not dead on contact. It doesn't die / despawn or whatever happens until it's out of the ring. And it can bounce into other slugs. If that happens, I'm fairly certain that the slug's momentum stops, and then it will just land back, and then they'll both immediately keep going. They will always path to the quickest computer first. However, if one spawns right next to it, I'm fairly certain once it is locked onto a computer that it will only go after that computer. So you can kind of use that to your advantage. But other than that, the only thing I can say is if you were near where the slugs spawn, it is acceptable to spend like a half a second or whatever it is to go over and kill them as it spawns. But it's never worthwhile to go out of your way to kill them when they spawn. It's always better, I should say, to let them kind of come out, because it's wasting time, wasting like their time or whatever, to let them kind of come out and try to get to the computers, because you can just beat them because you're faster than them. And then once you see that they've been out for a little while, which is again why the claw grip is so helpful, because you can see the most map at all times, not the most map, but the most arena at all times. It's just amazing. I don't know. The claw grip is very, very useful. Even if you only use it for this minigame, and I guess if you want to try to do the chicken spawning thing, or not the chicken, but the rooster spawning thing in chickens, even if you only use it for those two motions, or those two areas, I highly, highly, highly recommend learning it for these two minigames. So as normal, you want to start out, do the restart level or whatever, and then I always try to identify like the quickest computers. You can also go out of your way and avoid getting a computer to get to a slug to kill it, because like I said, they're on intermittent timers or whatever. So if you can, it's always worth it to kill them. And if you have to spend like half of a second to go out of your way to kill it and then get the computer on the swing back, you'll know that computer will always be there because you avoided it, and you know from using the claw grip or whatever that you don't have to worry about it. Now I'm getting really good spawns here. They're spawning very much so in my immediate direction. And also, I guess another thing to point out with the slug spawns is they will generally only spawn 2 at a time on a side. So they'll spawn, like only 2 can come from the same side. So if you see 2 on the other side that are already spawned, chances are on the other side they are right there as well. And another thing to point out is that all that matters in this minigame is that you collect 60 as fast as possible. Obviously, if the slugs get computers, that's bad because it's slow and it takes time. However, it can be very useful to stay on the side that you're on, collecting, 4 or 5 computers in a row. Also, we got 2 extra, that's cool. It can be very helpful to stay on like the general like half or 3/4 of the map that you're on, and kind of let them pick off computers. Like, so if there's a bunch of computers, like there's like 2 on this side and there's 4 on this side, it's more beneficial to collect these 4 while he collects these 2, because then it kills all of them and then it resets the spawns, and then maybe 2 will spawn over here, 2 will spawn over here, 1 will spawn back over here, and then 1 will spawn over here. You can go over here and collect these 2, drive over here, kill him, collect these 2, and then collect this. But like I said, it's very, very reactionary. You kind of have to, you know, have a bunch of on-the-fly thinking, which is a mainstay with these mini games, it seems. It's very, very, very on the fly, and you having the knowledge to of the like the mechanics and whatnot, and of the spawns, to take as much of the minigame as you can and put it into your control, and to take it out of the game's control, is how you're successful with these minigames. Like I said, there will be sometimes a little bit more in Burning, like very much so in Burning Rubber, where the game can just fuck you, and then certainly sometimes in Fish, and then every now and then in Chickens, where the game can just royally fuck you. But for the most part, for Chickens and Fish, you can generally work with what you've got and salvage it to not lose a whole bunch of time, and instead just lose a very small amount of time. I don't know why I was doing that. I guess just to get in a little bit of practice for whatever reason. But yeah, that's the end of my like 2 little videos trying to explain my general thoughts and like what I do during the mini games. Yeah, I guess that's all I kind of have to say. So I guess I'll see you guys in the next videos. Peace.